We are less than 2 weeks out from Election Day, and the Democratic campaign is bringing its message to Kentuckians. And thanks for joining us here at 5. I'm Connie Leonard.
And I'm Doug Proffitt. In fact, just moments ago, about an hour from now, it was touchdown at the airport for Governor Tim Walz. Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate, of course, the Minnesota governor, is in Louisville. He is attending a private fundraiser here in the city. He landed within the last hour at our airport. That's where Alexandra Goldberg is joining us live. And Alexandra, you have been covering this all day, waiting for him. Did he come over and say anything to you? And I don't think there are any public events scheduled for Tim Walz. Is that correct?
Connie, Doug, completely right. He did not say anything to reporters, and that fundraising event is private. But we were there up close as Governor Tim Walz stepped off the plane. He gave an enthusiastic wave, and then he met with local Democratic leaders here in Louisville, including Mayor Craig Greenberg and Representative Morgan McGarvey, before he drove off to that private fundraiser. Now, take a look at your screens now. You can see this is the moment that Governor Tim Walz landed at Muhammad Ali International Airport. He'll be in town briefly this evening, holding that private fundraiser for donors at an undisclosed location. ABC News reported that earlier today, Walz and his family were in St. Paul, Minnesota, casting their own ballots. This all comes, of course, during the final stretch of this election cycle. We're just 13 days out until Election Day, and we spoke with county party leaders, both Democrats and Republicans, about that final push to get out the vote. Logan Gaddy, chair of the Louisville Democratic Party, said this is a major moment for the county. And Charlie Bell, vice chair of the Jefferson County Republican Party, said representation on all sides matter. And we'll have more from those county leaders, all new tonight at 6. Live in Louisville, Alexandra Goldberg, WHAS11 on your side. Connie, Doug, back to you.
All right, Alexandra, thank you so much for that live report. On the campaign trail, Walz's running mate is responding now to scathing comments against former President Donald Trump from his former chief of staff. In an interview with the New York Times, John Kelly said Trump would praise Adolf Hitler, the Nazi leader who orchestrated the murder of 6 million Jews in World War II. His comments mirror similar reporting from The Atlantic magazine. Harris responded to the claims earlier today.
This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions.
Trump's campaign called the claims an outrageous lie, calling the stories fabricated.
Right here today, with the election weeks out, Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell is already looking forward to a change of scenery on the Senate floor. Come next month, the Congressional Senate Minority Leader will step down from his leadership role. He's going to continue to serve as Kentucky's senior senator. Speaking before the Kentucky Chamber here at the Omni Louisville Hotel downtown today, Mitch McConnell touching on the changes he expects to come, as well as the responsibilities that came with the job.
Here's one way to look at it. Free at last. What I mean by that is, you know, when you're the leader, if you're smart, you're looking out for everybody else. You also, if you're smart, understand you're going to take all the arrows that are coming in order to protect your members. And you want to make each of them be as successful as possible. I've enjoyed it. As you indicated, I've done it for a long time. But I'm actually looking forward the next couple of years to focusing on what I want to focus on.
Mitch McConnell's an Alabama native who moved to Louisville at the age of 15. He is the longest serving Senate leader in history, filling the role since 2007.
Today, in-person excuse voting starts for Kentuckians. In Jefferson County, the early voting polling location is at the Crown Plaza Hotel on Phillips Lane. County Clerk Bobby Holtzclaw reiterated that those voting right now must have a valid reason to cast their ballots early.
This phase here are people who have an excuse, that reason why they can't get to the polls, such as they're going to be out of town, kids that are away from at school. There's a list of reasons as to why they can't get there on Election Day.
Now, keep in mind, it's not open on the weekends. In-person excused voting runs through October 30th. Then no excuse early voting begins October 31st. That's when any voter can go to the polls early. Early voting ends November 2nd. Election day, of course, is Tuesday, November 5th. A Bullitt County mother pled guilty today for shooting and killing her 2 sons last November.
An aunt of one of those boys told us today that she wants Tiffany Lucas in prison for her life. That aunt also saying Child Protective Services mishandled the complaints that she made against Lucas. As Ian Hardwitt and photojournalist Jessica Farley show us.
Tiffany Lucas walked into court, ultimately pleading guilty to killing her 2 sons in Bullitt County almost 1 year ago.
Ms. Lucas, on count 1, do you admit and plead guilty to the offense of murder?
Yes, sir.
On count 2, do you admit and plead guilty to the offense of murder?
Yes, sir.
The 2 boys, Maurice and Jaden, were just 6 and 9 years old. Bobby Baker, Maurice's aunt, stood with the boys' stepmother and father through all the court proceedings and was prepared for more.
Like I said, I would have sat through a trial and heard all of it. I would have.
Without a trial revealing the details behind this tragedy, she wants people to know her experience reporting Lucas to Kentucky's Child Protective Services before the murders.
We called because her friends would call me and tell me that she was, getting high and putting them in the shower at 3 o'clock in the morning, ice cold showers, and I called CPS. And they wouldn't do anything.
A spokesperson for the Cabinet for Health and Family Services is working on a response to the claim. In early September, Lucas's lawyers planned on using an insanity defense, but reversed course within a month. Now the prosecutor will recommend Lucas's prison sentence 20 to 50 years or life.
She should have to stay in prison. Give them some form of justice. This isn't right.
Since Lucas made her plea without having a deal on the table, the judge in this case will decide how long she's supposed to serve in prison when Lucas returns at the end of November. In Bullitt County, Ian Hardwitt, WHAS11, on your side.
Lucas's sentencing for the 2 murders is scheduled for November 22nd. The prosecutor said that he'll suggest something high, but is still considering the exact prison sentence.
Today, a jury in the federal retrial of Brett Hankison toured Breonna Taylor's 2020 home where Metro Police shot and killed her during that botched raid years ago. Also today, Louisville's police chief took the witness stand.
Brett Hankison, a former LMPD detective, is charged with violating the civil rights of Taylor and her neighbors when he fired 10 shots into the side of her apartment complex. Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton are covering the case at the federal courthouse. And Isaiah, when did you learn that this visit had happened today? It's certainly a significant moment in this retrial.
Well, Doug, it was actually something that was kept private. This visit, this site visit that actually happened this morning. The reason why it was kept private was to protect, of course, the identities of those jurors. But Doug and Connie, I do want to get to a little bit of the latest information from inside court. The final witness for today, as we know it, is Cody Etherton. You might recognize that name. He actually testified in both of the previous trials. He is was one of Breonna Taylor's neighbors in that neighboring apartment. Some of the bullets from Brett Hankison's gun went into their apartment as well. He described a loud boom, the walls shaking that night. We'll get a little bit more into his testimony here at 6, but let's go back to that site visit. Of course, that was the big story of today. This video you're seeing right here is from 2022. That's during Hankison's wanton endangerment trial in Jefferson Circuit Court. So essentially, we know what this process looks like. Our cameras then captured the moments jurors arrived in a bus to that Springfield Drive apartment complex, getting an inside look into Taylor's old apartment. Now, U of L law professor Sam Markson has been following the Breonna Taylor case since the fatal police shooting. For perspective, I asked him about the jury's visit to her apartment.
They can all now have in their mind's eye a sense of this door was here, the other apartment was there, and how they relate to each other. And then when they start talking, they have a common experience of having visited the site. So I don't think it favors one side or the other necessarily, but it definitely will aid the jurors in their deliberations.
Now to LMPD Chief Paul Humphrey, who served as a key witness for prosecutors today. Humphrey, who led the LMPD training division in 2020, was asked for his reaction to Hankison's actions the night of the raid. Humphrey testified that he doesn't know why someone would make that decision under those circumstances to fire their gun. But defense attorneys continue to say Hankison perceived a danger to his life and his officers' lives, and that Humphrey cannot say what Hankison saw, heard, or felt in that moment. Now, guys, federal prosecutors are aiming to have their side of testimony finished by tomorrow's end. So that'll be something to look for. Again, when it comes to Brett Hankison, he faces a maximum penalty of life in prison if convicted. It's worth noting, though, no prior jury has found him guilty. Doug, Connie.
All right, Isaiah, thanks for that live report from the federal courthouse. Meanwhile, testimony in the Delphi murders trial up in Carroll County, Indiana, continued today. Richard Allen is accused of killing teens Abby Williams and Libby German back in 2017. Taking the stand first this morning was lifelong Delphi resident Sarah Carball. Our sister station in Indianapolis reports she testified that she saw a man covered in mud and blood walking on the side of the road on the same day the Amber Alert for Abby and Libby went out. But she waited 3 weeks to tell police what she saw. Defense attorneys then cross-examined Carball and pointed out that she never used the word blood in any of her 3 interviews with police, according to the transcripts. But a portion of Carball's second police interview is missing, and she testified she discussed that blood in the portion of that interview.